Marketing is about values.
Nike didn't call me and sell me this in a catalog. I bought this swoosh because it's ingrained in my soul.
When you have a product that really resonates with customers, the word of mouth grows like wildfire.
Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of the 10-Minute Marketer, formerly known as the Marketing Max Show. Logan, you with me?
I am here, man. I am ready to dive in.
Awesome. So we used to do this a lot with the Marketing Max Show. For whatever reason, this time of year, I'm getting a lot of DM questions, a lot of what would you do if you were the CMO of my business, or how should I think about growth marketing for Q4 or whatever. We used to have a segment on the Marketing Max Show called Mailbag. So today's episode of the 10-Minute Marketer is one question from the mailbag that was recently asked to me a couple days ago in my Twitter DMs. If you have a question that you want featured on the 10-Minute Marketer, you can DM me on Twitter at MarketingMax. You can hit up Logan Lyles, Logan Lyles on LinkedIn, or you can just go to marketingmax.com, scroll down to the bottom and input it into the form on the home screen. But the question of the day, Logan, you ready?
Let's go, man.
If you were running a B2B service business targeting investment firms with a $15,000 annual contract value, what top 3 channels would you focus on? And do you know anyone making LinkedIn ads work for anything, let alone targeting investment firms?
Mm-hmm. Well,
B2B service firm targeting investment firms, 15K ACV. What are you rocking with? Logan? Yep. What's your strategy?
So when it comes to B2B service firms, I think your expertise is the product. Your people are the product when you're in a service-based business. And so with that in mind, I want to get the founder or the partners of the firm out there in front of people on video, having your audience hear their voice, see their face, those sorts of things. LinkedIn ads. I mean, my first thought is that ACV probably isn't high enough for LinkedIn ads to be a primary channel for them. Would you agree with that?
I would 110% agree. LinkedIn ads are insanely expensive. For those of you that aren't aware, LinkedIn makes almost all of their revenue from their recruiting product, actually, and their sales nav product, but mostly their recruiting product. So they don't necessarily need to lower their CPMs or lower their cost to advertise on the platform, to get to profitability. The ad product is almost an afterthought for them in terms of running ads to generate leads or anything. So LinkedIn certainly wouldn't work for them, and for 99.9% of B2B businesses won't work either.
Yeah, the targeting is phenomenal. You've got some ways that you've leveraged that targeting to then kind of parlay onto other platforms, but that's maybe another episode. But so top 3 channels here, I would think about podcasting in 2 formats, and then obviously I would think about either newsletter or webinar as the third. I mean, those are kind of our channels of choice, newsletter and webinar. So they've got to be on there. But so I would start with a podcast strategy that is podcast guesting. So I would identify all of the top podcasts in your niche. You can do this with a ChatGPT deep research prompt. You can also go to listennotes.com to search for podcasts specifically in your niche. You can also do some manual searching on Apple Podcasts, those sorts of things. I would plan out what are the shows you want to guest on, especially in B2B. Like, it can be very niche. You could find the hosts and the producers of those shows on LinkedIn pretty easily with some research and do some targeted outreach. You don't need to really kind of scale this. And I think you'll get better responses if it's a little bit more personalized anyway. Where people usually go wrong with a podcast guesting strategy, though, is, Max, you've been on a ton of podcasts. What is the one question they always ask you at the end as a guest?
If people want to learn more, where can they find you, or where can they learn more about you, or what your product or service offering is?
Exactly. And what 99% of people do is they do one of 2 things. They say, connect with me on LinkedIn or go check out our website. We've got a ton of content there. And you saying a ton of content is not the value add that you think it is. It's not the incentive that it is in your mind. In your audience's mind, it's, why would I go to your website to wade through a bunch of stuff that I don't know if it's going to be valuable, and I'm going to have to spend a bunch of time finding what's valuable? Instead, do this. come up with one lead magnet that solves a very specific problem for your audience based on the questions that you're getting from your clients day in and day out. And when they say, how can people learn more? Actually, I've got a free resource for folks just like, XYZ that work in private equity firms or whoever your target is. Go to this landing page. We'll drop it in the description or the show notes, and you can sign up and get access to that for free. Bonus points, go to Namecheap.com or GoDaddy or wherever and buy a domain name for 11 or 12 bucks a year and make it something that is super memorable, easy to type in, especially if people are hearing it on a podcast, and then simply redirect that vanity URL, the domain that you just purchased, to your lead magnet landing page. And now you've got a lead magnet that incentivizes people to take that next action, to get on your email list. And then it's also easier for them to type out. So that would be strategy number one. Number two would be about your own podcast. And then three would be about webinars and newsletters. But I'll pause there, see if you had anything to add to that first idea.
I absolutely love the first idea because I spoke at a conference maybe 2 years ago in front of 110% my perfect target audience. And the moment I stepped off the stage, another presenter who's also a friend of mine looked at me and said, that was one of the greatest talks and presentations I've ever seen in the history of conferences. And I've been to a lot. I would give that a 10 out of 10 or 12 out of 10. But your call to action and ask at the end was a negative 100 out of 10. You completely butchered that. And I was like, really? I told people to go to the website. And he said, you have 120 people in front of you that all just learned amazing, amazing, amazing things and are now mind blown based on all of the step-by-step stuff you walked them through. And then you said, and if you want more information about how we can help you, go to the website. He's like, you are Marketing Max. You of all people know to say, most people at this point are struggling with this one problem. I've put together a free guide, a free resource, whatever, that answers that exact problem step by step by step. If you go to, and then to your point, go to Namecheap.com. And in that case, 3 ways to generate leads yesterday.com, right? And you put it up big and the QR code on a presentation at a conference, or you ask the person whose podcast it is to put it in the show notes.
Yep.
They are much more inclined to go to it because it's solving a particular problem than just go to my website to learn more about Max. That's probably some basic WordPress site where he's going to try to sell me some shit.
Yep. Just like you tell your newsletter advertisers.
Most people.
Yeah. Just like you tell your newsletter advertisers, don't run ads to your homepage. Have an optimized landing page with a very specific offer, very specific language around that offer, selling the value prop of that. It should be the same thing selling your lead magnet. Even though it's free, you got to sell it, right? It's like once we get people to one stage, we just kind of forget all of our marketing best practices and what we understand about human psychology. So keep that hat on and make sure you optimize, because you guys have seen it. You've seen it firsthand with your clients where conversions 100% on the homepage, they're great on that optimized landing page.
100%. But if you've been listening to this podcast at all, you know we talk about what I call the S2, the second step in the funnel, right? So go to 3 ways to get leads yesterday.com. But then the moment someone gives you their email, in that moment you need to send them the document, the lead magnet, whatever it is. But then push them to a type form that asks qualifying questions to say, okay, most people who are interested in this ebook or in this guide or in this video or whatever the lead magnet is, most people are struggling with this problem and they don't have time to actually implement everything in the YouTube video that I just shared or the ebook that I just shared. Do you mind if I ask a couple more questions to see if you qualify to have my team or us, who's helped 400 people do the exact same thing, or 3 people do the exact same thing, or big names do the exact same thing, do it 110% for them so that they could just focus on the things that they're already focusing on, and we could just stand this up for you. You're going to get more emails. You're going to stay top of mind with them because you're going to start sending them a weekly newsletter. And then you're also qualifying them in that moment where they've already identified they need leads, because they wouldn't be on 3 ways to get more leads.com or 3 ways to get leads yesterday.com if they didn't need more leads. So
Someone's buying 3ways-to-get-leads-yesterday.com right now. Well, not as we speak. This is pre-recorded, but still. So I'm with you. I am all about using the S2 behind any sort of lead magnet, whether that's a checklist, interactive content, a download, a newsletter sign up, as you've been famous for using that for, behind a webinar form, which is where we do it a lot over at Demand Shift. So that's kind of the first play. The one more hack to this: every time I'm a guest on a podcast, usually they're recording via Riverside, like we record the 10-Minute Marketer here on Riverside. The host of the show has the ability to send you a link to the raw recording files, which will give you your full video and audio track in HD or highest quality that your camera will record, and the transcript. That is content gold, where you are just showing up for 30 minutes to an hour with someone asking you questions. And what I say at the beginning of this, in a B2B service firm, you want to have your face and your voice and your video out in front of people. They might chop it up into clips. You should ask the podcast host for that, so you can share that on your LinkedIn, your Instagram, all of your channels where your audience is. But also ask them for the raw recording, ask them for the transcript, because you can mine that for tweets. You can mine that for more clips that they didn't pull, all of those sorts of things. So that's what I would round out this first play with. The second play would be, once you get comfortable with podcasting as a guest, host one of your own. And if you have a high enough ACV of 15K, you could use the podcast not even necessarily as a content generator, but as a business development tool. Identify your list of your top 100 dream accounts, go after them, and invite the decision maker at those target accounts to be a guest on your podcast. You'll build a relationship with them, and the sales conversations will naturally happen. I mean, Max, you and I met by being host and guest on a podcast, and that didn't lead to one of us being a client of the other, but it led to us collaborating more, and now me being a co-host on your show. And then the third, I would say, is, if you're adding more people to your email list by, this first strategy, and you're getting in front of your target audience one-to-one, you're kind of handling some scale and some one-to-one. The third piece is, what can you do automated to get in front of your audience more frequently? So I would do either a monthly webinar series and or a weekly newsletter, something that's on autopilot. You could even repurpose the podcast guesting that you're doing and the podcast hosting that you're doing for the topics for the webinar, so that you don't have to recreate the wheel, and all of these three channels feed each other, as opposed to being three different boulders you got to push up the hill.
I love all of those. I know we're already over the quote unquote 10-minute mark, and I know we both got to run. The last thing I'll say here, and I'm about to drop some real sauce. So if you are not subscribed on whatever channel you're listening or watching this to, please go ahead and like and subscribe this particular episode, because I'm about to drop the real sauce that a lot of you are going to hate, but it is the sauce for this B2B service firm and everyone else. Marketing comes down to two things. I've said it before. It comes down to getting attention and converting that attention into dollars. There's two ways to get attention. Organic content. Everything that Logan just said is organic content, right? It's getting on other people's podcasts. Okay, we're getting in front of more potential buyers. It's hosting your own podcast, inviting people to come on your podcast, right? It's a newsletter. It's the call to action at the end of the podcast. But the thing that I love about business is what most people hate, which is business is pay to play. Marketing is pay to play. So if you don't have time and you have a little bit of money, what you can do is you can go to all those podcast people that you reached out to and said, I'd like to be a guest. If they don't respond, or if they say, hey, you're not big enough, or you're not legit enough, or whatever, you can say, no problem. Can I sponsor 5 episodes for $2,000, and you do an ad roll in the same month for $1,000, $2,000, $5,000, and then you also go to every newsletter in the space that your target audience is sponsoring, is reading, and then you sponsor that group of newsletters as well. And then you go to all the B2B influencers in your space and you partner with them, and you do it all in the same week or all in the same month. And you have some really strong call to action, like Logan said, a strong lead magnet where you're pushing everyone to the same thing. Or maybe it's your own webinar where you're pushing everyone to sign up for a webinar on the podcast, on the newsletters that you sponsor with the B2B influencers. You can pay to get in front of your target audience. And if you have a really good, strong call to action, a single event to capture all of that intent, really money well spent. Really money well spent. Because then you're feeling, or your target audience is feeling like they're everywhere. They're feeling like, oh, wow, like these guys are showing up in every newsletter, every podcast I listen to. I need to check these guys out because
it allows you to kind of punch above your weight. Right?
Exactly. Repetition is the other most important part of that two-step funnel that I said, right? Getting in front of people and then converting that attention into dollars. The way you convert that attention into dollars is repetition. And to Logan's point, punching above your weight, your biggest competitors have a big budget. They're regularly sponsoring these podcasts. They're regularly sponsoring these newsletters, right? But if you do it all in one day or all in 1 week or all in 1 month, within that little echo chamber, within that little moment of time, you're going to feel like, or they're going to feel like you're everywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So sponsoring all of them, thumbs up. That's my strategy on top of everything else. Logan, I know we both got to run. We're already over the 10-minute mark. Anything else to add?
That's it, man. And I think, between you and I, we've given people something that you can really use, because most people are not going to be willing to kind of go across those different areas of sponsorship in a short time frame. Maybe because of budget, maybe because they haven't thought about it this way. The other thing that people aren't going to do is they're not going to go across all of those key channels and sponsor content and make the call to action something other than go check out our website, check out our company, check out our product. These are people who don't know, like, and trust you. They have no idea who you are. Don't go up and just try and hug strangers, right? Give them a high five, give them a fist bump with this great lead magnet, whether that's a webinar, the newsletter offer, some sort of lead magnet. And so I think that's how you combine what I was sharing and what Max has said to stand out from your competition, even if they have bigger budgets than you.
I love it. I love it. And remember, marketing is pay to play. If you have no money, okay, fine. But you can scrounge together a couple pennies. You can scrounge together something. You can barter your way to sponsoring every podcast in your industry. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
You bring them 2 or 3 customers or clients or whatever, and okay, maybe they'll trade a sponsorship for you. Like, figure out a way to get in front of these people in your audience to be everywhere all at once. Last pro tip. I know we've kind of wrapped this up a couple times. I know we both got to run, and you probably do too, listener, fan, friend. But last thing I'll say is, when you do it all, let's say in a week, so you sponsor 3 podcasts and 3 newsletters, and you work with 3 influencers in a week, right? You don't want all of them to be on the same day. This is a mistake that a lot of our advertiser newsletter partnerships and partners make. They say, oh, can we get everything on Wednesday? You don't actually want it to be all on just Wednesday. You want one newsletter to go out on Monday, and another newsletter to go out on Tuesday, and another to go out on Thursday, and another to go out on Friday, and another podcast to be on Monday, because you want the build to happen, not all within the same day. Because if one person's really busy, they're not going to read those 2 or 3 newsletters that go out that day. They're not going to listen to a podcast that goes out that day, right? You want to spread it out within that week or within that month.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe. Thank you guys as always for being here. Any questions, hit us on Twitter at MarketingMax, Logan Lyles on LinkedIn, or the form at the bottom of marketingmax.com. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Max show. It takes me and my team hours to produce it every single week, but it only takes you 15 seconds to hit that share button and text it to a friend, drop it in a Slack group, or share it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or any of your favorite social platforms. I appreciate you taking the time to check out my content. Have an awesome day.